Sleeping. Come here. Look.
What?
I want to show you something.
What?
You want a piggyback?
Yes.
Let's get her up. You see, the sun is coming up, but you can still see one or two up there. You see that one?
The stars?
That's a planet, that one. That's another place.
No, we're on the planet.
Yes.
Any sign of what kind of camp? Like
Summer camp?
trolls, summer camp, space camp?
What I can do is show you my notes on Catherine Ruidis.
Well, I'll take what I can get.
Yeah, sure.
It's about 2 a.m. at this time. There's some moonlight in the sky. It looks like a fairly waxing moon, at least the one you can see. There are multiple moons.
Wait, what?
There are 2 moons in Alexandria, but one of them is so
How
faint.
did we never know that?
That was established in the last campaign, but it never
looked out.
Yeah,
Like dogs, we never looked out.
yeah. But one of the moons is so
Just in case,
so faint.
How many suns are there?
There's one.
Okay.
Anyway, so there's a faint bit of moonlight right as you hit the intersection between the Amber Road and the Bronkiln Byway. The sun has set, the sky is dark, the clouds prevent starlight from coming through, and what moonlight would be visible is choked, giving you only the faint glimmer of what looks to be the moon's location behind the cloud cover. What would you like to do? It's not a full moon, but it's mostly full, and there is quite a bit of moonlight kind of coming down over the dock. You can see it glittering across the water in the center of the harbor. There are not heavy clouds in the sky, and the moon seems to be not a full moon, but it's fairly bright. But because the mist, it diffuses, so there is kind of this general faint moonlight throughout the entire vicinity of the town. The moon high up, a little bit of white light that's beginning to trickle across the slightly shifting forest with the breezes that occasionally push through. There's a rush of wind and darkness. You now can look up and you can see a little bit of the moon, or specifically Katha, and Ruidis is barely visible behind you that way, and there are stars and bits of sparse clouds. Hey, you want to see something very pretty?
Yeah.
Points up to the moon, and right there on the kind of mostly full surface of Katha, you see the shadows shift slightly, and they form these 2 round, googly eyes and a little smile with these 2 little pointed teeth.
That's really cool.
Are you here as well, studying the moons?
Absolutely.
I'm primarily researching Ruidis, the smaller of our moons. So I'm
Ruidis.
Yes, you know, yeah. So you do know that there are two moons of Alexandria. There's Katha, which is the main moon. That's the one that's largely associated with the Moonweaver.
Do you know who the Moonweaver is?
No.
Excellent.
Moonweaver is classically more of an elven deity, but is they are a god over the night of shadow. Music, there's a lot of variations to what they go over, but they're definitely not one of the approved religions in the Empire, and is not considered one of the betrayer gods classically, but is an inspiration for a lot of art and classic elven history and even some modern. The caretaker of evening trysts has a lot of unique history to the Moonweaver.
Moonweaver cards specifically, while there is a kind of a general build, the Moonweaver encourages creativity and deceit. So Moonweaver decks tend to be all over the fucking map. And the moon is a beautiful large moon in a night sky over this kind of a crystal clear lake. And when you turn it over, it's called the mirror. And when you look in the reflection of the moon in the lake, there are 2 moons.
Like balls.
And one smaller reddish purplish moon behind, like sitting right behind the big normal white moon, which is not actually in the sky in the moon card. It's just a single moon.
You don't always learn what you want, but you learn what you need. Do you know where you stand?
Bet you're gonna fucking tell us.
Please tell us. I shout from below.
Looks over the railing at you with a smile. Welcome to the heart of the King's Cage. A relic of the Calamity devises a temple built to Torag around a primal fane of corrupting power. It was built secretly by the Allhammer Moradin and Sehanin, the Moonweaver, to lure Torag into its use. And there's Ruidus, who's the secondary moon, which is kind of a dull brown color, is much smaller and further, and is like mostly not visible throughout most of the day, and usually only during certain points of night. So I'm hoping and working here with the Woodset auditors to see if there is some information that may have been recovered from the ruins of Malaesmere, and so far it's been a lot of false leads, but I'm working on that. And this blade was once known as Dweth Var, the Star Razor.
Write it down, write it down!
You can see the blade itself now before you, set upon a stone tablet, itself glowing with runes across the center of it. A weapon forged through a union of two acolytes, of Melora and Sehanin, during the Age of Arcanum. It carries the blessing of the fiercest full moon and starlit night. Recovered by the elves and dwarves of Uthodurn, it was reforged and strengthened under the skilled work of the dwarven smith, Dulgrim Smeltborn, before it was sundered in a terrible battle deep within the ruins of Malaesmere, within the Savalir Wood. The pieces have since been recovered as historical relics, trading hands through traveling merchants and smugglers, then lost through time.
Until now.
Anyway, what have you been looking for? What is your process? Please tell me anything.
Oh, what was your name, by the way? So.
Sorry.
No.
Archivist Demid Sunlash.
You said your focus was on Ruidus.
Personally, yes. It's the one we know the least about.
We know a bit more about Kappa, actually.
Understood, most do. It's mostly just folklore elements. There's a lot of specific study on it these days, which is why I find it such a fascinating subject.
What have you found so far?
Well, it's been a bit dry so far, hoping. I mean, the standard, beliefs of various cultures across Exandria, of it being an entity of ill omen,
Right. Yeah, speaking of the ill omen thing, we've actually been trying to research the coalescence between the moon cycles and like beasts and fiends that happen, because maybe there's a correlation. Have you heard of anything?
That is very possible. The moon cycles themselves are distinctly related to various entities, whether it be bestial curses or creatures themselves that are nocturnal. They come out by Cartha's light to hunt.
Demons?
Demons. Now, there is a lot of interesting thoughts and ideas about Cartha.
Yeah.
About Ruidus. Ruidus itself, some are believed to have been either a pre-creation, back when the elements themselves were consuming all of Exandria, but others believe may have not originally existed, may have been a creation by the betrayed gods, and was some sort of long-running mysterious plot that was cut short during the end of the calamity, and when they were banished away. That's what I'm certainly curious about.
So it is a discussion of the wide pantheon of Exandria. It speaks loosely about the creation myth of the realm. It speaks of the tethered elements, on how these entities came to the planet and attempted to quell the elemental chaos that was roiling across the surface, and the elemental titans that resided here before the pantheon came, managing to separate and disperse them to their separate elemental planes and bring order in the beginning of life to the planet. It goes into the eventual betraying, what can be known as betrayer gods, and the creation of other entities that were just born out of the malice that began to find its way into the heart of those that were created in the life form of the initial pantheon.
Do you think demons come from the moon?
I don't. Some people do.
Okay.
What about you? What have been your findings?
Well, it's illusory, really. It's as you say. Everything is shrouded in myth and legend. It's mostly
of course,
superstition.
Yeah.
Some people say it's made of cheese.
Yeah.
Oh, what? Who?
People.
People.
I said they're dumb.
Interesting. Is there a particular culture that believes this? Because,
Yes, Whitestone.
Whitestone.
Part of the local myth and legend in Whitestone.
Tal'Dorei is such an uncultured land.
I always felt kind of sorry for Ruidus,
Why?
Less noticed than its
Yeah,
sister.
like it's
The
got
ugly
this
duckling.
big flashy sister always trying to take all its attention.
Little
don't know.
sister feeling practically invisible.
We're talking about moons.
Yeah.
They are.
So you have come as well, friend.
I'm her assistant, her moon assistant. She is like the big moon, and I am the small moon behind the big moon.
Just a little moony.
Are you a study of Rudis as well?
I'm an amateur, but I try.
Oh, this is fortuitous, definitely.
There's two cycles. We have, I mean,
Wow,
Katha is the common moon cycle, and that's the great, white moon in the moonlit sky. And that cycle is a, anywhere between 30 to 40 day cycle, waxes and wanes per normal. Rudis is a very slow orbit. Is visible for about half the year. It takes a full year, essentially, for a revolution. It's far more distant, and Rudis is very prominent in the sky at the moment. Very prominent, meaning you can see it. This faint little kind of brown, maroon type dot in the sky during the evening is barely noticeable. The day, it's even fainter.
I know more than I ever wanted to about
Yeah, I agree.
the cycles of the moon.
Okay, let's go.
I'm a fan of astrophysics and astronomy. So for me, it's I'm having to marry my love of that aspect of existence with the strange, obtuse, planar element of Dungeons and Dragons. So I'm kind of finding a merge between the two. Right? I do believe there is universe, planets, moons, that kind of a larger scope, though. That's not anything that's really going to play into this, but then we go into dimensional stuff, far realm elements, the actual different planes that overlap, those that don't. So yeah, I'd say it's a blend of the two, if anything.
New goal for campaign 2, space travel.
Oh man, that'd be a hard left turn if we go into Spelljammer partway through this game.
Flying in the sky wasn't enough for you?
Enough with airships. We want to go outer space.
Oh man, that'd be the fastest TPK.
The Githyanki skull that they had found. The spirit trapped inside the skull was of an imprisoned, brutal Githyanki pirate captain from like generations back who had been forgotten and lost. And once the person had agreed to free him, it actually replaced their soul with his, and whoever it was with their soul would have gone in the skull, and they would have embodied whoever it was. And then there would have been this evil Githyanki captain basically piloting whoever made the deal. But now that his spirit was revealed, the people who imprisoned him, the Githyanki troops, or the Githrazi, I think, would begin hunting him down. It was a whole story arc that just never happened.
The head's a bit elongated at the back of the skull. You've had a little bit of not direct interaction, but from what you've heard in your research on the skull that you found beneath Whitestone, or not beneath Whitestone, beneath Greyskull Castle, the one that you had fought over previously, a very similar shape to the head.
I am Shanak. I am an Anak from Limbo. My home is Shraktlor. Appears to be a partially buried statue. The body is that of a robed female. Her head is wreathed like a lion in blades.
Whoa.
Just swords coming out like a jagged sunflower.
The ethereal and the astral between the realms. You see these clouds of gray and light blue that mingle and create kind of the Venn diagram where everything overlaps on top of. They act as the threads that hold these things together and connect them in between. With the inner planes showing the elemental chaos where the primordial elements were ordered into following the founding of Exandria. And you can see where the flaming sphere is placed here, and there is the water and the wind and the earth, and that is the scattering of these inner planes.
Is there a "You Are Here" sticker?
Yeah.
That's actually, yes.
The outer planes, where the realms of the divine exist, are scattered and connected, all surrounding the material plane on the outer side. What you both notice, two things are off about this. One, there's no divine gate shown here. In this whole layout, there is no reference, and most maps or sketches or historical designs of this type of a layout contains the divine gate, because that was a major event that happened after the calamity and separated all of the gods from the mortal planes.
Old man. Just like the device.
You get the sense this might be, at least was designed before the Divine Gate was ever created. Number 2, there's an additional shape, smaller than the rest. A tiny ruby-like circle that floats in the astral sea that is not tethered to anything and seems to not really fit within your understanding of the cosmos.
Small ruby circle. That's right here. A ruby.
Like the same color, like the color of a ruby. That's
A ruby in the astral sea?
Aww.
Does it blink, shine, shimmer, move?
No, it's just the same type of material as everything else that's the glass window's made out of.
And where is that amongst the planes? The little ruby amongst the sea? Is it in between two surfaces?
It looks like it's sitting in the center of the astral sea, and it doesn't have any tethers. Like everything else seems to be tethered by these silver cords almost. That puts in this large tapestry.
All sorts of places. Now that the doorway has been open for some time, I think we can travel quite easily through many of the planes, maybe other worlds. This is but one of many prime materials. I'd be curious to see what else lies out there, huh?
Me too.
The traveler mentioned the possibility of traveling to different worlds in the prime material. And I'm wondering, what worlds would Jester and the Traveler cause the most chaos in, like Greyhawk or Eberron or, Forgotten Realms? Where are you going to do the most damage?
The best part was I looked over at Matt in that moment and there was a little green glitter still stuck under his eye. And he sparkled at me just like the real Traveler.
What do you think, Jester? What would be some fun ones to jump into?
Well, Greyhawk I think would be wonderful.
Well, Greyhawk, just because you get to kick around the original world and make them feel bad for being the OG. I don't know, I think Planescape. Because that just opens up to everything.
Yes.
I just want to see someone call Jester a Burke and have her go like, "You're a dick." Yeah, I think Planescape would be my answer.
As you come through, you find yourself just stationary, drifting.
Is our hair like going floaty?
Yeah, your feet touch no ground, your hair kind of floats a bit, and your body gently glides without direction away from the open portal behind you, which doesn't close. Drifting to a slow stop, and you're all kind of holding hands, just kind of drifting. Gravity holds no sway here, not in the way you know it. Surrounding you in every direction is a sea of swirling silvery mists and curling winds, an expanse of soft gray and white dots with distant points of light like the stars of a night sky. The door behind you is built into a massive, rough island of dull cerulean rock that sits adrift in this strange place. But what really catches your eye are the numerous platinum chains, maybe a dozen or so, thick platinum chains that are bolted tightly to and wrapped around this dark blue rock before pulling to the creature that they restrain. Just below the door, about 30 or so feet from the island, and about 25 or so feet from you, rests a terrifying behemoth that challenges the darkest of your nightmares.
This is way worse than I thought. And maybe we should go back.
Nope. We are looking at the face of an elder god.
Frumpkin is just floating in the astral sea in front of this thing's closed mouth.
Okay. Tiny Frumpkin kind of floating in space before it, kind of looking back at Caleb going,
Send that fucking cosmonaut into that goddamn trip.
He just starts paddling through the astral plane inside.
We don't know. It's too much. We're level 10. It's too much.
Do it.
Do you want to go in? No! Where would we go?
Okay.
Counterclockwise.
Now I'm flipping.
Counterclockwise. Caduceus, going in or leaving?
I think going in.
Speak your truth. Laura, going in.
Going in.
Sam, speak your truth. Liam, speak your truth.
Caleb starts floating towards the mouth.
I'm holding on to him.
That's 3 and 1.
I am holding on to him. Yeah, let's go.
What are we doing?
Not the brave. Live up to your name.
and you all are doing this. Okay, so you watch as the entirety of your friend party, one by one, drift into the open, gaping, toothy jaws of an astral dreadnought.
We're holding hands.
Holding hands. Until they're all disappeared into the shadow.
Holding hands.
But you're holding Knott's hand? You going with him?
The rule before we came in here was
Everybody holds hands.
Everybody hold hands.
So not you're being dragged into its mouth.
Or you can stay out.
Hello.
Stay out.
With it.
I've already died once. It's okay. Let's go.
You do recognize that the whatever was used to power this, as well as possibly the golems within Halas's folding halls, that this material does not exist naturally. You don't know the name of it, but it was utilized as essentially an arcane battery-type technology that was employed by some of the top echelon of archmages during the Age of Arcanum. You would know that some elements of it have supposedly been traded around, usually scavenged from ruins. What elements you've heard of coming from the north?
From the north. And is this possibly connected to these cities floating in the sky?
Possibly, yeah. And you do know, like, it wasn't like every city was floating. There were maybe 3 major cities that themselves utilized and had kind of cornered the market on Broomstone and were able to hold their entire city aloft. Who could afford to.
Broomstone?
Broomstone is the bluish stone that's used in like skyships, and is a mineral that has the properties that, with a very basic, simple enchantment that it's very susceptible to, causes it to lift. And there are a few cities that had enough of this that they had hoarded and built within, that they were able to hold an entire city aloft.
Okay.
You know that supposedly one of these had crashed in Isocross to the north, in the Biting North, and there are some elements of the Empire outposts out there that are currently kind of excavating what remnants they're able to have access to of that fallen empire. You would know it's referred to as Aeor, A-E-O-R. It's like relic tech, almost like the magical artifacts on a larger scale that were created by some of these older kind of mage-based mageocracies that ruled during the Age of Arcanum, that waged war against each other, and some of them against divinity itself. But in those regards, none of the excavations and any of the relics that have been categorized, that have been studied, that have been made record of, resemble what was recently found in Schattenrad.
Do you want this? I will later. Okay. We have too much to do.
So I'd say between those two roles, the only place you can think of that would probably have the materials that were utilized to power this, that's one location that you know people have been able to scavenge and sell often.
Isocross.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
For as far as the weaponry and how it's designed, it doesn't appear to be just a standard type of ballista. It has some strange, like almost like a bluish crystalline tube that is put in towards the front, and the individuals that are currently manning it are assembling some sort of ammunition that you don't recognize.
Do they look like Waco design?
From what you've seen, it could very well be the case.
Hey, so sorry. So, hi. What's, I am Professor Tuss Waco.
Tuss Waco.
I've been one of the top researchers, specifically in development of engineering, and most recently, one of the head designers of the Conflict's war machines.
Oh, hello. I see we've got our ballistas ready.
We have them prepared, yes?
From good old Waco?
Well, yes, these are Waco's design, yes.
What did they do again? I just transferred. I don't know anything.
As far as I know, they They are partially constructed from something recovered up north in Isocross.
Ooh, that's a pretty. Oh, I think that's a pretty magical place.
I mean, I learned that thing was like, okay, it was Waco, yeah, and it uses like magical ammunition, and they got the supplies from the north, which I think is interesting. That's where we want to go for the kiln, right?
Yeah,
so isn't it supposed to be like someplace really like
maybe super magical?
Yeah. But
the elves live there, right?
Yeah, maybe it's elven or something.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay,
So if
you
you
glance
wanna look-
over and you see locked into the ice of the wall, there's some strange metallic contraption. You don't recognize its make. It looks weird and alien, and that weird kind of blue pulsing glow that's kind of just slowly kind of lighting and then fading and lighting and then fading. You've never seen something of this type of construction, and it's mostly embedded in the wall. It's huge. It's like 20 feet tall, 5 feet wide. You have no idea
You
what it
can't
is.
get it out.
I can
it's
get it out.
frozen.
It'll be very loud.
No, don't get it. Don't get it out. It's fine.
What is that thing?
I don't know.
The last one discusses the theories behind the ice fields and the underreaches of Isocross and the beasts that live and endure it.
Isocross.
Isocross. Iselcross. Isocross, you know, is a rather large body of land to the north of the main Wildemount continent. It's considered part of Wildemount overall, but it's just a frozen kind of Arctic cap.
Not separated in any way, just frozen over to the north, or is it separate?
It's separate. Like the frozen depths. There's a large channel of water that separates the main body of Wildemount and Isocross. But it is.
Cross lives.
But aside from like two very, very small kind of ice fishing villages that are expansions of the Denalian Empire, it is mostly uninhabited. Nobody really goes there. There's a bunch of creatures that have spent millennia or more living in that place that are extremely dangerous, and it's just snow and ice.
Frozen depths.
Isocross is far north of that.
Farther north, even frozen. Off the map or on it.
Off the map.
Proud.
We're going off the map, man.
Probably need a special boat for that.
It's a Mercer mystery.
Shit.
This object that you so unknowingly brought to us is known as a Luxon beacon. It is the body of the Lord of Light himself. A long time ago, before the gods came, the Luxon, the first light, came to this cold, dark world. And in his solitude, not understanding what he was, saw this lonely ball of rock as lonely as he, as she, as whatever it is trying to discover it is. And it embraced it and scattered itself to bring fire and life that gave birth to the elements, gave birth to the seas. And the many parts of the Luxon still reside buried within Exandria.
I think it's safe to assume that the Assembly, or at least Trent and Vesterogna, that's Antiquities, correct?
Correct.
They would have done as much research and homework as possible. I think we should assume they know.
Yeah. There was a dig going on already. I'm just getting clear.
There was a sinkhole that was discovered decades ago on the outskirts of Pride's Call that was found to lead to deep beneath the earth an Arcanum ruin that has been a slow-going excavation that has been purposely and intently supervised by the Assembly since its discovery. And it was in this ruin such a beacon was discovered. We do not know if it was already part of the ruin or it was through some sort of chance that the two had overlapped.
But Pride's Call was one of the initial dwarven societies that joined the Dwendalian Empire as it began to expand out of Rexentrum. You discover that there is indeed an excavation a little bit to the east of Pride's Call. It began with a sinkhole that had fallen in years ago. A portion of the ground that just suddenly caved in. And as investigations began to go into it, it was discovered that beneath that cave-in, there was ruins. It is believed since then that the ruins are from an Arcanum city called Schattengrad.
We've heard of that.
You may or may
No.
not have.
I don't think so.
I don't believe you have. Schattengrad was one of a number of prominent cities in the Age of Arcanum. This was not one of the framed floating cities. Only a handful of them were, elevated through Broomstone. This one probably existed here before it was destroyed, and before or during the Calamity. There was indeed an object recovered from the ruins a few weeks back, described by some of the actual Cobalt Soul at the scene as a geometric shape pulsing with some strange dull power.
And what are these things?
Yeah, what are they? Me and Caduceus were talking about it. They're either A, homegrown from the land, B, fell from the sky, C, made by somebody long, long time ago, D, I think this is the best answer, they're poop of some kind.
What do you mean fell from the sky?
I don't know, like they fell like meteors or
Well,
something.
bodies of material do on occasion fall from the heavens.
I don't know how.
What are you researching?
I want to look through the histories of the Age of Arcanum specifically for any unexplained things found, anything related to astronomy, meteorites, things falling from the sky, things that even then, and this is long ago, so it's a long shot, but things even they did not understand.
There are records of things falling from the heavens, referred to as meteors. Iron and metals that have been made and crafted into sets of armor of legend, old generals of wars and forgotten ages that used the star metal as the basis of their weaponry. As brutal as it began with enchantments, itself became extremely strong and resilient, and in some cases able to absorb enchantment quickly. There's talk of what was thought to be meteors, but instead happened to be residual elements from perhaps Arcanum weapons that were jettisoned into the sky, returning hundreds of years later, that then just impacted into the ocean and were lost. There's talk of a meteor that crashed not but 10 years before into the Siren Green Forest just above Diastok that vanished, though the impact destroyed a portion of the forest. There's talk of...
We get clients like these all the time in the brigade, so it's pretty normal. But anyway, go on, what's your job?
Well, my name is Master Dulon Tversky, and...
You said that one of the members of their group is named Dolan?
That's right, yeah.
If it comes up, no big. Just, can you find out that guy's last name?
Dolan's last name?
Yeah.
Sure, any reason why?
I know a guy named Dolan Tversky.
Tversky?
I don't really know Tversky. I don't know. It doesn't really mean. I don't know. I've heard. Just find out his last name.
Sure. Is this guy from where you're from or something? Old mate of yours?
No. Just have something of his.
Skim the book on the Cerberus Assembly.
Okay. It has a breakdown of previous members who passed away. It's basically like a historical dialogue of how it was established. The name was actually a reference to a group that existed in the Age of Arcanum. There is Master Dulin Tversky, who is the Archmage of Dysology. Dysology. There's the...
reading these things out loud?
I could say I'm muttering it under my breath.
Yeah.
Master Dulon Tversky. And it's come to my attention this last evening, a strange object fell from the sky, crashing somewhere within the Siren Green Forest to the south of here. I would like to hire you to retrieve whatever fell and bring it back to me.
You have no idea what this object is? Could it be some sort of celestial body? Was it a meteor?
It might be. Perhaps it was a creature, and if it is, subdue it and bring it back to me. If it is an object, gather it and bring it back to me. I care not the process, just bring it.
The cave itself, it smells of old hard water and fungus. The winding, damp, rocky path eventually opens up into a large chamber with a pool of water that sits across the way. You can see peeking from the surface of the water a large shimmering stone. Very similar in appearance and glow as to the shards that you had found within the crater itself.
Pretty. No.
What do you guys see up there?
A rock. Buddy found a rock.
Yeah, it looks like it's the same shiny stuff that was in the crater. I think this is the main part of it.
Oh, like the meteor itself.
Yeah. Yeah, the meteor itself.
Meteor. Do you want Buddy to lift it?
Please, yes.
Most of it's a series of different impacts that all have led to recovery of just material. And most of it seems to be iron. Some of them are various odd metals, and a handful of them have been very odd metals that have been since grabbed by whatever group or political faction was in charge of that recovery process, and then the records either vanished based on who they were sold to. There are some records of them, supposedly some of these recovered meteors going up on auction in different auction houses. So as the auction house in Port de Mali twice in the past century, such rare odd metals that have been recovered from some of these impacts have. Many people believe there is a prominent belief, superstitious as it is largely considered, that most of these meteors that do come through in meteor showers themselves are parts of Ruidus, the distant moon, breaking apart and making their way towards the planet. Some believe because it's decaying and just showering its decay upon the planet in clumps. Others believe it's supposedly like distant warrior spirits that themselves are returning to the planet after being lost on the battlefield. There's all sorts of strange religious phenomenon based around this celestial activity when it does occur.
Lots of strange things, but not really what I'm digging
Not what you're looking for, yeah. You begin to now approach the large spires that you had seen on the horizon before. Some of these are bits of dark rock that don't match the brown and red floor of this wide badlands. It's like a deep dark gray, and they're ranging anywhere between 15 to 40 feet tall. And they're thin, and they're just jutting out of the ground like they were placed there or were pushed out from underneath. You did briefly encounter the Penumbra Range when you were going towards the Stone Giant's Fort, and the coloration and texture of this rock seems similar.
And they're pointed and jagged.
Random directions, different places. It's
not etched or glyphed or symbols on them or anything?
Nope.
Okay.
They don't look like they're... You go ahead, sorry.
No,
15 to 40 feet tall.
Yeah. Like tons of them, like Fortress of Solitude? Or?
No, like you'll come across one every mile or so.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's cool.
And then at some point you come across like 2 or 3 within a mile, and then sometimes you go a stretch of 5 miles without any. They're kind of randomly distributed and in different sizes and different angles where they're placed across the field.
Skim the book on the Cerberus Assembly.
Okay. It has a breakdown of previous members who passed away. It's basically like a historical dialogue of how it was established. There's Lady Ves de Rogna, who is the Archmage of Antiquity.
Oh, man.
I'll send you these later. It's fine. I'll send you an email.
Do I recognize that person from my time at school?
You recognize both of them.
Holy boly. All you gotta do is ask.
The woman is Lady Ves de Rogna, the Archmage of Antiquity of the Cerberus Assembly.
Sorry, didn't hear you there. Lady Ves de Rogna.
de Rogna.
Ves de Rogna.
The Archmage of Antiquity
of the Cerberus Assembly.
What does that even mean? Arch?
And they destroyed everything. They asked me questions, but Lady Dorogna said not to tell anybody anything, that if anybody was told about what we were doing, that she would take Luke away, and I can't let that happen.
As you approach, the scribe Morden says, just so you're aware, this, to step into this circle, will send you to Palebank Village, which is a bit northwest of here and is involved in our excavations of Islecross to the north. That is not of interest to you, and I would hate for you to be suddenly stranded in such a small podunk place.
Lady Vesterugna is clever in her own way. And I am curious to what her involvement is to the Biting North in particular. But may or may not be involved in this, but I trust her less than most, I think.
Dorogna.
Dorogna. That's the name. She was commanding a period of experimentation with it.
So you've seen her once before from a distance in Felderwin.
Oh.
This is Lady Vesterogna.
Oh, shit.
The Archmage of Antiquity.
Oh.
I'm the 99, correct?
Yes.
I have been made aware of who you are. The Martinet speaks highly of the aid that you provided back in Rexentrum. And when all of this is over, if you're looking for work, there may be some possibilities in the north should we work together.
This year, have a much more out there question for Travis and possibly Matt. Is Ford not from Exandria?
Is he a space alien?
The darkness all-encompassing, yourself alone in these shadowed depths. A faint green light is visible in the distance. You push and swim towards it, the light growing brighter, closer. As that grows closer, a second light, even further, impossibly distant. But you can acknowledge it, rests on the horizon. As that first light gets brighter, you can see the source taking shape. It's a figure, female, nude, also swimming. Avantika, emanating this strange green glow, swimming ahead of you, her body wreathed in this faint greenish yellow aura. She looks and points to you, and the waters around you seem to glow with the same colored light. You look down at your body and you see that you are now the third glowing source of this green energy. And suddenly the waters are easy to traverse. What was once sluggish and difficult to ford is second nature. A voice comes through. Watching. The distant light you see suddenly dives with incredible speed, nearly out of sight. The immediate comparison of half-orc him to half-orc Ford is it's a Laurel and Hardy sketch.
Wait, is some of your family as big as him?
I don't know who my family is, so I don't think so.
You've never known your family?
Nope. I'm an orphan.
Really? Antika dives down after, rocketing down below you, breakneck in her speed. You dart after her to give chase, moving far quicker than you anticipated. You realize the water is becoming thinner and thinner, like air. You're falling. 3 shooting stars plummeting through a dark sky.
Learn. Glancing down below this endless void you plummet towards, you make out the details of what seems to be a surface rushing towards you. You plummet towards an ocean. The faint, distant, endless glittering of moving, shifting waves. What was thought to be meteors, but instead happened to be residual elements from perhaps Arcanum weapons that were jettisoned into the sky, returning hundreds of years later, that then just impacted into the ocean and were lost. There's talk of a meteor that crashed not but 10 years before into the Siren Green Forest just above Diastok that vanished, though the impact destroyed a portion of the forest. There's talk of some sourceless moonlight just barely giving the shapes below, with 3 large masses beneath you, like a misshapen triangle of land masses of incongruent sizes. 1, 2, 3. You rocket downward towards the space between the 3, the center of this triangle, hitting the waters of the ocean with tremendous force. Impact, but no pain.
Long ago, your grandpa Gohan was walking through the woods when he came upon a crater that had been recently made in the ground. When he went to examine it more closely, he found what appeared to be some sort of spaceship. And next to it, there you were, lying in a little round pod.
I'm from outer space?
Yes.
Well, that would explain a lot.
You sink. The light of the other 2 figures glittering through the lightless waters. Down. Down you sink. Until you see a structure come into view from below. A tilted tower wrapped in sea vines. The hollow center providing a wide tunnel further within. You peer inside this empty tunnel of the tower's depths and watch as a sudden bright yellow light shines from within. A gleaming yellow eye. Reward. As the 2 other lights seem to try and drift towards you, behind you, you fall into darkness and the dream ends.
Is he a space alien?
I feel like he has to roll a dice for that or something.
I can't tell with his dumb face. It doesn't do anything. It just smirks, and then he's got the face.
He's really good at poker.
Yeah, I'm not getting
Beware, Travis Willingham is the biggest troll known to man. Travis, you want to answer the question?
I don't know, friend. Do you think I'm from Exandria?
There's a few things that point to it being a possibility for me.
Possibilities are endless.
Pause for effect.
And there really is another world.
No. We're on the world.
But I sharpen it. It's so sharp. I sharpen it every night.
That's wonderful. And I think in the long run, that'll be a very useful feature. But it's also not that uncommon of an object. So
It's touched by the moon.
yeah, and I'm touched by the sun every morning.
The hit home turf.
Beauregard vanishes from the battlefield in a flash of arcane power. Beauregard, as you're right there, fists burning, you get this weird sensation, like this weird sparkling around your torso, and then suddenly darkness, and you are adrift on this endless sea of sparkling gossamer, stars and silver. All your friends are gone, the water's gone, you are just floating.
Can she breathe?
Yeah, you can breathe.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
That's gonna be comfortable.
And as you go to inhale, you cough all the water out of your lungs. And you are alone. It is cold and you are alone.
Oh,
dark?
Boy.
It's dark beyond like bits of weird kind of silverscapes of cloud and sparkles from all around. You see distant little clusters of what looks like floating rocks slowly rotating.
Cool.
All right.
I dead?
Maybe.
Question for the.
Oh, for Pete. Go into a brief moment of darkness, find yourself now floating in the same gossamer space, seeing the distant sparkles and like weird distant winds that look almost like deep clouds in space with large shadowed land masses in the distance, and you hear a distant, sounds like a wail, a very deep resonant wail behind you. And you turn and look, and there is a shadow. You're not sure how far away, but it is getting slowly bigger.